This is the story of a waitress who humiliated an arrogant millionaire after his cruel dare. But here's the question. How could a simple challenge inside a crowded restaurant turn into the moment that silenced a millionaire and made everyone cheer for the waitress? I've told countless stories of arrogance meeting justice, and this one is among the most unforgettable. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll see how a single act of courage can flip the balance of power in the blink of an eye. The story begins in a small, old-fashioned diner tucked on the corner of a bustling city street. Its neon sign flickered at night, but during the day, the place smelled of coffee, buttered toast, and sizzling bacon. Behind the counter worked Maya Carter, a young waitress in her mid-20s. Maya wasn't glamorous, and she didn't pretend to be. She tied her hair back every morning, slipped into the faded uniform the diner provided, and practiced her best customer smile. But behind that smile was someone carrying weight, unpaid bills, late rent, and the constant tug of dreams that seemed forever out of reach. To the regulars, Maya was the kind of waitress you remembered. She remembered your order, asked about your kids, and slipped an extra refill of coffee without charging when she could. But to others, strangers passing through, businessmen in tailored suits, wealthy diners who saw the place as beneath them, she was invisible. Just a waitress. Just someone who carried plates. Maya had learned to live with being underestimated. She even wore it like armor. But deep down, she knew she was worth more. On a chilly Friday evening, the diner's bell jingled as a man stepped inside. Damian Hale. A name that carried weight in the city's financial circles. A self-made millionaire, or so he claimed, who thrived on making others feel smaller. Damian was tall, sharp-suited, and wore a smugness like it was tailored for him. He wasn't in the diner for the food. He was there with a group of equally arrogant friends, laughing loudly, as though the small space were their stage. From the moment Maya approached their table, Damian's eyes held that look, the one that stripped people of dignity, as if he owned not just wealth, but the right to judge. "Waitress," he said, not bothering to use her name, "bring us the best thing this sad little place has." "Surprise me, if you can." Maya smiled politely, jotting it down. She had dealt with worse, but she could sense something different in his tone tonight. There was a cruelty simmering beneath his words, waiting to surface. As the night went on, Damian grew louder, fueled by whiskey and the attention of his entourage. They laughed at every cutting remark he made, each one directed at the people around him. The old man eating soup alone, the young couple splitting fries, and, most often, Maya. "Tell me, waitress," Damian drawled as she set down another plate, "do you ever get tired of... what is it you do? Walking back and forth, smiling on command, pretending you're happy?" His friends chuckled, eyes on Maya, waiting for her reaction. Maya kept her voice steady. "It's honest work, and I'm proud of that." Damian smirked, swirling his glass. "Pride. Interesting word. Let's test that pride, shall we?" There it was, the spark of the cruel dare forming in his mind. His friends leaned in, sensing entertainment. Maya could feel the shift in the air, like a storm rolling in. But what she didn't know, what Damian certainly didn't know, was that his dare would backfire so spectacularly, it would become the very moment that humiliated him in front of everyone. The diner had grown quieter as the night deepened, but Damian Hale's table was alive with laughter and arrogance. His friends were the type who orbited around his wealth, nodding at every cruel joke, feeding his ego. Damien leaned back in his booth, his eyes locked on Maya as she wiped down the counter. "You know," he said loudly, ensuring the whole diner could hear, "I've always wondered how far pride goes when there's nothing behind it. People like her," he gestured toward Maya with his glass, "pretend to have dignity, but in the end, it's all just an act." One of his friends, a sharp-jawed man in a designer blazer, smirked. "What are you thinking, Damien?" Damien's lips curled into a cruel smile. "I'm thinking of a little dare." The word sent a hush across the booth. His friends leaned in. He snapped his fingers, calling Maya over. She approached, tray in hand, refusing to flinch beneath the smirk in his eyes. "Yes, sir?" she asked, voice steady. Damien tapped his glass on the table. "I dare you to sit here, at our table, and prove you're more than a waitress. Tell us something, anything, that makes you worth more than the coffee you pour." The words cut through the diner like a blade. His friends burst into laughter. The old man at the counter shifted uncomfortably. Even the couple in the corner stopped eating. All eyes were on Maya. Damien leaned closer, his voice low but dripping with venom. "Or are you too scared? Because if all you are is this uniform, this diner, then maybe you should admit it, right here, in front of everyone." It wasn't just a dare. It was humiliation served on a silver platter, a trap designed to make her crumble. But Maya didn't flinch. Not yet. Inside, Maya's chest tightened. 1,000 responses flashed through her mind. Anger, shame, the urge to walk away. But she had learned long ago that some battles weren't won with rage. They were won with composure. She placed the tray down slowly, her eyes never leaving Damien's. "Is that what this is? A game to you?" she asked softly. Damien smirked. "Life is a game, sweetheart. Some of us play to win." The words hung in the air. His friends chuckled. One muttered, "This should be good." Maya's jaw clenched, but she kept her expression calm. "You want me to prove my worth? That's funny, because people who really know their worth don't need to dare others to show theirs." The booth erupted in mock gasps. "Oh!" one friend laughed, clapping his hands. "She's got some fire?" But Damien didn't laugh. His smirk thinned, just slightly. "You've got a sharp tongue for someone who relies on tips to survive," he said coldly. "But fine, I'll make it interesting." He pulled out his wallet, sleek leather, thick with bills, and tossed a crisp $100 note on the table. "If you impress me, if you can convince me you're more than this, you can keep it. If not, you admit, right here, that you're nothing but a waitress." The diner froze. The stakes had been set. It wasn't just a dare anymore. It was a battle for dignity. Maya's heart pounded. But she knew one thing with absolute clarity. She would not let him win. Maya took a deep breath, the diner's silence pressing against her. This was her moment. But what could she say? How could she outshine a man who measured worth in money, power, and cruelty? The old man at the counter gave her an encouraging nod. The couple in the corner leaned in, waiting. Even the cook peeked out from the kitchen window, sensing something important. Maya met Damien's gaze. "You think money makes you better than everyone else. But here's the truth. I see people like you every day. People who think the size of their wallet gives them the right to decide who matters and who doesn't. But I've seen things you'll never see from your glass tower." Damien leaned back, amused. "Oh?" Do tell. Maya's voice grew steadier, her confidence rising with each word. I've seen kindness from people with nothing in their pockets. I've seen strength in the single mother who skips meals so her kids can eat. I've seen dignity in the man who works 3 jobs and still greets the world with a smile. That is worth more than all the money in the world. The diner erupted in quiet murmurs of agreement. Damien's smirk faltered. His friends exchanged glances. Maya stepped closer, lowering her voice so only he, and everyone else leaning in, could hear. And the difference between you and me? You need this game to feel powerful. I don't, because even if you take that money back, even if you call me nothing, I know who I am. And no dare can take that away. The silence that followed was electric. Damien's hand hovered over the $100 bill. For the first time that night, he looked uncertain. The diner was no longer just a late-night stop for tired customers. It had transformed into an arena. Every eye locked on Damien and Maya. Even the neon sign buzzing outside seemed to dim beneath the tension. Damien's smirk was fading, but his pride refused to let him back down. "Nice speech," he said, voice tight. "But speeches don't prove anything. Words are cheap." His friends chuckled uneasily, their laughter thinner than before. The old man at the counter cleared his throat loudly, as if to remind Damien he wasn't fooling anyone. Maya folded her arms, steady and calm. "Then what would prove it to you?" she asked. Damien leaned forward, his eyes glinting with cruelty. "Dance!" The word hit the air like a slap. His friends burst into laughter again, relieved the spotlight was back on her humiliation. "Yes, let's see if she can dance," one jeered. But Damien didn't stop there. "I dare you to stand right here, in front of everyone, and dance for us. If you're really as confident as you say, show us." The cruelty wasn't in the dare itself. It was in the way he framed it, twisting dignity into entertainment. He wanted her to feel small. He wanted the diner to laugh at her. The couple in the corner exchanged uncomfortable glances. The old man's fists clenched. Even the cook muttered, "This is going too far." Maya's chest rose and fell with a steady breath. She could walk away, but deep down, she realized this was her moment, not to entertain Damien, but to turn his cruelty into his downfall. Maya looked around the diner, seeing the faces that had watched her endure Damien's mockery all night. People who, like her, had been dismissed, overlooked, or underestimated at some point in their lives. She wasn't just standing up for herself anymore. She was standing up for them too. Slowly, she set her tray aside. "If I do this," she said clearly, her voice carrying across the diner, "I'm not doing it for you." Her eyes locked on Damien's. "I'm doing it to prove that no one can use me as a punchline." The diner fell silent. She stepped into the center of the floor. The jukebox in the corner, an old relic that usually went ignored, suddenly became important. The couple in the corner slid a coin across the counter to the old man, who rose with surprising agility and placed it into the machine. A soft melody began to play, crackling but warm. Maya closed her eyes, letting the rhythm guide her. Then she began to move. At first her steps were small, tentative, but as the music swelled, so did her confidence. Her movements grew fluid, graceful, filled with an elegance that silenced even Damien's friends. It wasn't just dancing, it was storytelling. Her arms stretched wide, as though she was shedding every cruel word he had thrown at her. Her feet moved with precision, her body expressing a strength that no amount of money could buy. The diner was mesmerized. Even the cook leaned out of the kitchen window, mouth agape. The couple clasped hands across the table, whispering, "She's incredible!" The old man tapped his foot, smiling with pride. And Damien? His smirk was gone. In its place was something Maya had longed to see all night: doubt. When the song ended, the diner erupted in applause. Genuine, heartfelt, thunderous applause that shook the walls of the little restaurant. Maya stood tall, chest heaving, eyes blazing with quiet triumph. Damien's friends clapped awkwardly at first, then stopped, realizing their leader wasn't smiling. The smirk that usually commanded every room had vanished. He looked rattled, humiliated, not by her compliance, but by her defiance. Maya walked back to his booth. She didn't snatch the $100 bill. She didn't need it. Instead, she placed it gently back in front of him. "You can keep your money," she said, voice calm but cutting. "Because tonight, I proved something you'll never understand. That worth isn't measured by what you own, but by who you are." The old man at the counter shouted, "That's right." The couple clapped again, louder this time. Even the cook banged a spoon against a pot like a drum roll. Damien's cheeks flushed red. His friends shifted uncomfortably, the power dynamic clearly broken. The man who had strutted in, as though he owned the world, was now the butt of his own cruel game. One of his friends muttered under his breath, "Man, she made you look like a fool." Damien shot him a glare, but the damage was done. The entire diner had witnessed his humiliation, not through Maya's anger, but through her grace. For the first time that night, Damien Hale had no words. Maya leaned in, her final words a dagger cloaked in velvet. "Next time you try to break someone, remember this moment, because all you did was break your own pride." The diner roared with approval. The diner slowly settled, though the energy still hummed like electricity in the air. Conversations started again, but every word carried an undercurrent of awe for what they had just witnessed. Maya returned behind the counter, tying her apron back around her waist as though nothing extraordinary had happened. But everyone knew everything had changed. The old man raised his cup. "To the bravest girl in this room," he declared. The couple clinked their glasses against each other in agreement. Damien sat frozen. His friends shifted awkwardly, suddenly very interested in their food. The confidence that had radiated from him earlier was gone, stripped bare by a waitress who had refused to bow to his cruelty. He tried to laugh it off. "It was just a dare," he muttered. "No big deal." But the words rang hollow. Everyone knew it was a big deal. His humiliation wasn't just in losing control of the room. It was in the fact that Maya had flipped his own game against him. Maya glanced his way once more, her eyes calm, steady. "The difference between us," she said softly but loud enough for him to hear, "is that you came in here trying to prove you were better. I didn't have to prove anything. I just had to show who I really am." Her words hit harder than any applause. The silence that followed was heavier than before. Damien's friends, once quick to echo his laughter, now stared at him with thinly veiled discomfort. One finally spoke, a half-hearted joke. "Man, she roasted you good." Damien snapped his head toward him, his jaw tight. "Shut up!" The tension was unbearable. He pulled out his wallet, tossed a wad of bills on the table, and stood up. His movements were sharp, stiff, like a man trying to hold together the last shreds of dignity he had left. But dignity doesn't survive when an entire room has seen you fall." As he walked toward the door, the cook called after him, "Next time, treat people like humans, not props." Damien didn't respond. He shoved open the glass door, and for the first time that night, he was the one everyone was laughing at, not with admiration, but with the sting of poetic justice. The bell above the door jingled as he stormed into the night. His friends followed, whispering nervously, their loyalty shaken. The diner felt lighter as soon as he was gone, as if the air itself had been freed. Maya let out a slow breath. Relief washed over her, not because Damien had left, but because she had faced him without breaking. When the last customers left and the neon lights flickered dim, Maya sat in the quiet diner with the old man and the cook. The couple had waved her a heartfelt goodbye, still talking about her dance as though it was a story they'd pass on. "You did good, kid," the cook said, setting down a slice of pie in front of her. "On the house." Maya smiled faintly. She didn't feel like a hero. She just felt tired. But deep inside, she knew she had taken a step she couldn't take back. The old man leaned forward, eyes sharp with wisdom. "You reminded him tonight that money can't buy respect. But more importantly, you reminded everyone here that dignity isn't given. It's claimed." Maya nodded, letting the words sink in. Her reflection in the window caught her eye, hair loose from dancing, face glowing with sweat and adrenaline, but posture tall, proud. For the first time in a long time, she saw herself not as just a waitress, but as someone capable of turning humiliation into power. She whispered to herself, "He thought he could break me. But I showed him I can't be broken." The night had scarred her, yes, but it had also lit a fire. And that's how a cruel dare became the stage for a transformation. Damien walked into that diner believing his money gave him the right to belittle others. But what he didn't expect was that Maya, a waitress he thought beneath him, would be the one to strip away his pride, not through anger, not through revenge, but through grace, courage, and dignity. We've all met someone like Damien, haven't we? Someone who tries to make themselves feel taller by cutting others down. And maybe, like Maya, you've wondered if standing up is worth the risk. But here's the truth. The moment you refuse to be someone's punchline, the moment you choose dignity over fear, that's when you reclaim your power. Maya didn't just humiliate a millionaire that night. She reminded everyone in that diner, and maybe even you watching this now, that true worth isn't in wealth or status. It's in the unshakable belief that you matter. And maybe, just maybe, the next time someone tries to test you with cruelty, you'll remember Maya's story, and you'll stand tall too.